Shalom, I'm Daniel Rose. I'm the Director of Educational Programming at Yesod, and this is the Yesod vlog. Second in our series, finding relevant and meaningful connections from the coming Parasha to our lives, and in this situation, sadly, to our current situation that we're all experiencing right now. So this week's Parasha is Parashat Vayikra. It's the first Parasha in the Book of Vayikra, in the Book of the Vayikra. And while the Parasha is mainly about the sacrificial service, the Korbanot, I'd like to focus on the book as a whole and find the themes that run through the book of Vayikra as a whole. And if I had to sum that up in one word, it would be holiness. The word or the root for holiness in Hebrew is Kuf Dalit Shin, Kadosh, and it's found in this book more than any of the other 5 books in the Torah. And if we look for what holiness means, we find holiness in the Book of Vayikra on 3 levels. We find holiness in space, we find holiness in people, and we find holiness in time. So let's take a quick peek at each one and find a relevant message to ourselves in our current situation. So the first holiness I'd like to look at will be the holiness of space. So Judaism has holy spaces. We have a holy land. I am thankful enough to live in the Holy Land, the land that Judaism considers to be holy. We also create holiness in our synagogues, and the ultimate holiness that is explored in the Book of Vayikra to a tremendous extent is the holiness of the sanctuary, of the tabernacle, of what then will become the temple. So what can we learn from that? Well, we're stuck in our own homes. I grew up as an Englishman with the phrase, an Englishman's home is his castle. And I'm urging us to take the message of maintaining the holiness of our house while we are now perhaps confined to our house. So what does that mean? What is the holiness of our house? Well, whether that be the hygiene of our house, whether that be the respecting everyone's spaces in our house, either way, I don't know. Every one of us has to decide what the holiness of our house will look like. But I was inspired by a message that I saw Natan Sharansky give this week. Natan Sharansky, the hero of the Jewish people, tremendously inspiring leader, who talked about the lessons that he learned while he was confined and imprisoned in the Gulag. And he found 5 tips. And the first tip that he mentioned was, remind yourself why you are in isolation. We're fighting for our survival. Natan Sharansky spent 9 years in the Gulag reminding himself why he was in isolation as part of a global battle. So we have to realize that we are confined. We have to remind ourselves why we're confined to our homes and what we're doing here. And we're literally fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our survival. And once we recognize that, I think perhaps it puts a little bit of context into why we're going through these experiences. What's the second kind of holiness that we're experiencing? So that's the holiness in people. So the book of Vayikra explores the laws of the priesthood, who represent a specific, I don't want to call them a class, because I don't believe that Judaism sees them as superior in any way, but rather they have a specific mission. But what's fascinating in the book of Vayikra is we find the following verse that expresses the holiness in the Jewish people, or in fact calls on the Jewish people to be holy. It says in Vayikra chapter 19 verse 2, Vaydeber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael v'amata lehem kadoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem. Speak to the whole Israelite community and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord, your God, am holy. So the Torah and the book of Vayikra urges us to be holy as a nation, to be a holy nation. The way we treat each other, the respect we have for each other, particularly trying. I have a house just over here with my 5 wonderful children there, and together as a family of 7, we're being challenged in respecting each other and giving each other space and finding ways to live with each other in an abnormal situation. There is a holiness in finding a way to do that, in showing each other the love and respect that we deserve and the space that we deserve. The final realm in which we find holiness is the holiness of time. And with this we can learn so much from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who referred to Shabbat as our sanctuary in time. In his seminal work, The Sabbath, Rabbi Heschel says, Judaism teaches us to be attached to holiness in time, to be attached to sacred events, to learn how to consecrate sanctuaries that emerge from the magnificent stream of a year. The Sabbaths are our great cathedrals, and our Holy of Holies is a shrine that neither the Romans nor the Germans were able to burn, a shrine that even apostasy cannot easily obliterate, the Day of Atonement. So we're just about to experience Shabbat, and in a week where perhaps we've all been together in the same space, confined, where hours seem to roll onto hours, and it's been hard to differentiate between time, and it doesn't feel the number of times that someone in my house has asked, what day of the week is it? Well, we now know that it's almost Shabbat, and Shabbat is a time where we step back and we say, Shabbat is going to be different, Shabbat is going to be holy. So however you do that, however you would like to make Shabbat holy in your house, it's important, I think, for us to take a moment to make Shabbat different in some way from the rest of the week, for our sanity, for our emotional well-being, and for our holiness and spiritual safety and well-being. So I hope that these ideas were interesting and relevant to you. We've explored briefly the holiness of space, our homes as an example that's relevant to us now, the holiness of people and the way we treat each other, and finally the holiness of Shabbat. Shabbat is coming very soon. I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom weekend and the following week of safety and health, and we should know karma days very, very soon. Shabbat Shalom.